Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of CoachCast, our monthly live show committed to creating a world where technology enhances human potential rather than replacing it. I'm Gabby Acosta, your CoachCast producer. And if this is your first time joining us here, welcome. We're so happy you're here. CoachCast is a community for leaders who are feeling that stress and anxiety of navigating technological innovation and constant change in that workplace. Together, we'll help you adapt to change and shape the future of work. As a reminder, for those of you who have joined us before, you already know we love centering conversation and community. So your job while you're joining us today is to engage with us as much as possible, ask the questions, share your resources, share your insights. We'd be happy to have you join us for the conversation fully. We are more than happy to have you share some questions anonymously as well. We know that questions related to work can be a little bit sticky, so please feel free to use the link that I shared in the comments today from our Slido, where you can share your anonymous questions, anything that you are curious about and want to hear more about. We'd love to have them. So without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to our incredible co-hosts, Kully Jaswal and Wagner Denuzzo.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gabby. Welcome, everyone. It's our second episode, and we are going to be talking about a few things. First, we are going to have an overview of where we are at in the future of work, right, Kully? Kully and I will keep researching and exploring where are we, especially now that we are approaching the fourth quarter, the famous fourth quarter of 2024. Can you believe it? But it's true. After Labor Day weekend and all this. But before we go on to do this, I think Kully has something for us to focus on and be present today. Kully.
Beautiful. Thank you, Wagner, and good morning, good afternoon, evening to you all. Yeah, as Wagner said, in the US, we're just returning from a long holiday weekend. So many of us may be arriving a little bit tired, a little bit still wishing we're on that holiday. So in all our workshops and our trainings, we have a short practice called A Moment to Arrive, and we'd love to do this with you today. So beginning slightly differently. So if you're open to this, we encourage you all to try this. It's not going to take longer than a minute. But if you feel comfortable, just sitting in a comfortable position where your feet are firmly on the ground or stand, and just relaxing your body. And if you feel up for it, closing your eyes, or at least gently gazing downwards. And just bringing attention to your body. Noticing your feet firmly on the ground and feeling the earth beneath you supporting your whole body. Just relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your facial muscles. If it helps, bring a gentle smile to your face. And now just taking one breath, slowly inhaling and saying to yourself, I am doing my best. And a nice long exhale, letting go of the rest. And now gently open your eyes and let's begin.
Kully, thank you so much. I love this because it brings us to our own selves. The attention becomes much more present. So thank you so much. Because everything's connected. Now we know that AI is here. Now we know that businesses are trying to adapt to this transitioning period of 2024. But what we are seeing also is that companies are trying to identify how they are going to grow capabilities for 2025 and also how they are going to move from this transitional period to a transformational period. Because transitions are very reactive. We are reacting to what's happening, hybrid work, everything that's happening globally. And I think that's why we see the mental health increases. Actually, a new report just showed a little increase in sick days. So we know that there is tension in the organization. But what we need to do is to understand how we can focus on technology, talent, and teams to really boost the capabilities that we need for the future of work. So, Cully, you have been exploring what's happening today in the workplace. So, what have you found?
And it's really interesting, right? Because there's a lot of talk about AI and how fast we need to sort of get it into place. However, there was a research paper actually just released by the World Economic Forum just this month or last month, which showed there's only a 1% increase in the level of automation that was estimated to happen in 2023. And so earlier predictions were that we're expecting around 47% by now, and we've only had 1% increase. So now that shift is going on to say realistically, it's probably likely to be closer to 2027 when we get in that big increase in automation. So what we're noticing is that technology is advancing rapidly at a pace that we can't even keep up with. Because it's people, right? Humans that are behind the systems. And unless we are developing fast enough to sort of understand the technology and getting ready to embrace the change, it's not going to be sort of incorporated in the way that we imagine. And there are like thousands of new AI entrants to the marketplace, and we can't even sort of keep up to pace with all of that. So there's still this push, right, for automation and effectiveness to increase that sort of our effectiveness and productivity. However, what it showed was that only 2% of people are actually using AI productively, only 2%. So now what the new research is showing is that people are looking for ways to effectively upskill people to help us get ready and use this technology. So that's really where the human capabilities come into, which is what we're going to be talking about today.
And of course, we have to consider all the risk mitigation efforts out there because governance is a big deal. Of course, we understand all this, but there is something that's hindering the process in the progress. And we need to understand that. One of the research that I read talks about leaders overestimating their capabilities. And actually, when you ask them why adoption hasn't been so widely accepted, and they start talking about they don't have the skills in the organization to move forward. But I think that's a projection because there is a lot of leaders out there who are not putting the effort to understand the connection between the talent, the skills that we talk about, skills-based organizations, and the capabilities that they need to build, and how to embrace generative AI as a component of this workforce composition. So we need to start training our leaders to be humble and accept that probably we all need to upskill ourselves in generative AI because there is an incredible amount of research showing how productive could be the organization that allows access to generative AI with, of course, guardrails. But we need to embrace it, and leaders are not embracing as much. But we are here to talk about the capabilities of this year of elections, an election year, but the capabilities are really visible to us. What we found is that talent supply is a huge capability that we need to develop. What is the future of talent supply? Thinking about, and I just read an article as well about the gamification of systems, because we do game systems. We are humans. We get around and try to understand how we can game the systems because guess what we did? For efficiency's sake, we all understood that our TA systems have to have a little dosage of AI. So we apply AI to understanding and search through resumes and identify the skills. Then people start getting the idea that actually, if that's how the machine is doing, I have to use machine to work on my resume. So now employees are using AI to help them create the right resumes for the right job description, and the machines in TA are adopting the same process of identification of skills. So there is a gap there, is human capability. So when you think about talent supply, we're going to have to think more broadly about not full-time employees. The hiring and firing is a workforce balance management system that we use for the last 50 years.
Mm.
But now people are onto it. You can't just keep hiring, firing people according to the economics. What you need to do is, what other ways that we build this talent supply capability that does not harm our culture, our reputation, and increase the engagement and the culture in the organization. So that said, you need to start exploring new talent pools. Out there, we have fractionals, we have independents, and I advise A team. A.team is a great example of this. A team, what they do, they have 9,000 builders, engineers, architects, solutions architects, and all this that can be plugged into your existing teams to augment and actually accelerate design development of your products and capabilities. So there are so many examples out there. So guess what? We all need to embrace the idea that the talent supply is incorporating supply management systems, is incorporating finance, because workforce planning is not exactly how it used to be done, because it was about headcount. It's not about headcounts, it's about skills. And let's start considering AI as part of the talent supply. We're not
Mm.
talking about talent as people only. We are talking about skills. If you are a skills-based organization, let's talk about skills. Right,
Mm.
Kelly? I think we agree on this. We need to broaden our perception of what it is.
But again, it sort of takes time for us to change the way we're actually like hiring and firing. We're so used to
Yeah.
having like full-time, part-time employees, and now I think through the pandemic that shifted everything, right? Kind of that people want that flexibility. People are looking for different ways of working, and we realize that we've got this global talent pool that we can hire from, right? And in different ways, and not in the traditional way. So that's what we mean by sort of this changing the global talent pool, and so the ways that we're hiring, that is actually quite exciting, both for if you're sort of an individual looking for work, because you no longer need to kind of actually, we're seeing it all the time now, people are doing more subcontract, more independent work, not going for the big consulting, whatever, right? Kind of ways of working are changing. Then also companies can get access to this very experienced talent pool without paying fortunes for going for those big consulting firms. So I find it actually really fascinating. And as Wagner said, it's just like, how can we have those experts as part of our team, right? So they don't need to be there all the time. But if we want to get above that 2% of people using AI, we have to change the way we're actually bringing expertise into the teams.
And I love the idea of global too.
Yeah.
Now we have a global talent pool that's available to all of us. So we need to think. Now I have to say, when I work with my clients, HR leaders, they are a little concerned about the impact of increasing the percentage of independents, contractors, non-full-time employees. I understand that, because impacts culture, impacts, legally we have to be careful. But a lot of companies that I've been talking to, what they are doing is they have a set of expectations for anybody that they bring in. It's not that they treat them as employees, because that's illegal. But what they do is they establish the conditions in which the people can come in and be successful. So you have to abide by norms, values, and principles of the organizational culture. And I think that's fabulous. If you want to get around this, make sure that you have clear expectations of everyone that comes in for as much time as you need, because that solves the problem. Now, that's one capability. But the other capability that we talked, Kully, is effective teaming. I don't think I can overestimate the importance of this, because like I said, the A team is a great example. They have teams of builders. For example, you have a, a tight budget. Everybody's dealing with a tight budget. Upskilling, reskilling, we know the hindering factors there, right? You have to upskill at the right time, at the right place, with the right people, with the right adjacency of skills. Then the upskilling and reskilling sometimes is not connecting, and you lose the talent that you upskill. What we are trying to do here is to teaming, because leaders can benefit from that. Organizations can benefit from that. Start thinking more broadly. The intelligence that you need is the collective intelligence. AI is a collective intelligence. Your talent's a collective intelligence. So leaders have to be much more attuned to collective leadership, this idea of teaming across functions, because functions are bleeding into each other to create value. So the whole idea of the verticals are necessary to create operational excellence. We understand, but we need to move to teaming effectively, because that's what's going to give you the great advantage. And to be honest, teaming requires human capabilities. We cannot stress that enough, right, Cully?
Absolutely. And this is where kind of, again, I think it's always been a challenge, and like kind of a lot of people will say, so since the pandemic, everyone's sort of struggling with the way we're working now. But I think it's always been a challenge. But if anything, it's heightened now in terms of how do we work together when we are working with dispersed teams, and so that people recognize what is that collective goal. And we talked about this in episode 1, just in terms of the importance of communication, the importance of having a shared purpose. But I feel like we're at a point now, if we really want people to work together in a strong way, people need to unlearn in some ways, in terms of how we approach teaming, and how do we get everybody on the same page, right? How do we have that shared purpose? How do we have the intention? And this is where sort of even thinking about the ecosystem within an organization, like how are we communicating? How are we how are we all aligned and connected in the same way? And that is going to require some unlearning and relearning in terms of making that work really effective. And we've got a whole episode on this, I think, coming up on that, because we feel teams are becoming a little broken, right? Kind of, they're not aligned in the same way. And I feel it is sort of really recognizing that people follow people, right? People follow people, and we connect. It's that human capability of making sure that we all understand each other and we're on the same page is going to be critical.
And the good news is, I talk in my book about teams being the new unit of value. If we just focus on that shifting mindset, would be so helpful. But we have a little gift for all of you. I don't know if you've seen this research that was just done in the article from the Stanford Graduate School of Business. We are going to put on the chat because it's worth looking at it. It's free. You don't need to be a student. You can just get it downloaded. It's 25 pages of incredible merger of what we call humanity and the business today. If you have an opportunity, take a look at this study. It's amazing because it talks about the comparison. What's AI? What's humanity? And it talks about emotions, purpose, innovation, creativity, moral compass, ethics. It talks about consciousness. It talks about what's really human, which is the purpose and meaning of our work. But the good news here is that what they talk about is, if you embrace AI to help you get to a state of humanity in these human conditions that gives you a little more satisfaction, that gives you purpose and meaning in life, actually there is no incoherence between the AI as a partner in this journey for humanity. So what I love about this article, you have to read it, because it's amazing how it connects the dots and say, hey, AI might not have consciousness, but AI can help you use that time that you're freeing up to be more focused on the present time, to be more focused on yourself. So think about the example of exercise. We use now watches to remind us that we have to do exercise. Imagine if you use AI and generative AI to remind us that actually we have self-limiting beliefs, to remind us to let go of what we cannot control, to remind us to be more focused on what's our purpose and meaning. So the idea here is a gift for you, because it was a gift to us when Kully introduced this to me this week, and I thought it was fantastic.
And it's just been released, right? So Stanford's done this white paper, and what I love about it as well is it just shows that technology is here, but the humanity piece is more important, and it's there to support us, right? Kind of in a nutshell. So I feel let's embrace it from that perspective, and understand that we kind of are all a part of this for it to sort of get us to where we want it to get to.
I want to leave you with one more thought, because then we go on to show you the showcase of today's technology, which is amazing. on their article. Not it is not about politics, but the research shows they try to change the mindset of people who believed in conspiracy theories. And they did the process of using AI to apply logic and help people who truly believe in conspiracy theories. What they found is that AI could change the mindsets by 20%, and they lasted for 2 months at least. So we are not saying this is not about politics, but imagine organizations that are trying to change the mindsets of an industrialized era to a more AI-driven future. You can start working with AI to help with divergent thinking, for example. They are not innovative, and AI is not innovative, and machines are not creative. But what they can do is to show you divergent thinking to start opening doors.
I love
So you
that.
see, it's an incredible partnership. And I love that. I leave you with that because I thought it was fabulous.
Yeah, and the tipping point, right, for changing organizations, changing cultures is 20%. 19%, I
It
think
is
it is
20%.
perfect, right? So use that as a way of helping sort of really to create that change across the culture. So without further ado, I'm really excited. We're really excited to introduce you to Siobhan Lindley today, who's going to be talking about our showcase. She has created a fantastic platform to help develop human capabilities in a very unique program. So I am excited to sort of welcome Siobhan to our CoachCast today.
Welcome.
Hello, so good to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
The first guest, what an honor.
Exactly, our first guest. So really, and we wanted to showcase sort of your platform because we believe in it so much. Like we really believe it's something unique, something very valuable to people out there. So I'm going to hand it over to you just to sort of show, just to talk a sort of super high level about the platform, your learning platform, and how it can help to really excel those human skills that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. ION, we're here to raise the bar on all things learning and development because online learning in so many ways is broken. It's not working. So whether that is creating cinematic e-learning experiences that employees actually want to watch, written by go-to experts, leaders, researchers, really using science, psychology and social psychology, anything that we can to like base what we're teaching people in what we know from lots of research around the globe. We want to build courses on those essential topics. And sometimes that are people who are within our organization. And sometimes those are other people who are not within ION that we partner with, like you all, on essential topics like professional well-being, inclusion, emotional intelligence, leading through complex change, resiliency, these key things that we all know are the important skills we need to develop in order to thrive, especially in an AI-driven world, global world where people are working everywhere across the globe, and yet we can't even work well together as humans. So how can we help people learn how to work with people who are different? How can we help people actually be accountable to completing courses on these critical, essential topics? That is what's going to be the greatest thing to help them grow in their career. And so those are the things that we're here to try to raise the bar on. And but at the very core of it all, only 15% of people complete online courses. So it's like things are really fundamentally broken. Or on the complete other side, we'll fly people all over the world into a classroom, cram them full of information for a day or two, and then hope they walk away and know how to change. And there's no support systems or no accountability post-program, and they're kind of left with maybe a binder full of information, and they don't know how to implement it on the day-to-day to get it into practice. So those are some of like the large-scale challenges that we're trying to do. So what we've done at ION is we're the first platform to build its technology on the science-backed methodology of small group learning theory. But we've modernized it for global remote distributed teams, if that's what an organization is designed like. We needed it to work for all companies of all sizes. So what's small group learning theory? And most simply, it's that we learn best from others in small groups, right? Like a study group in college or a book club, or even if you go out to dinner. This is a great social experiment. Let's say you go out to dinner with 8 people. Do all 8 people talk, or do you break off into small little pods of 3 to 4, maybe 5 people and have a side discussion, because there's no way you can hear everybody's conversation. So it's just that simply that. So our platform matches learners into small peer learning groups using a diversity focused algorithm. These small groups of about 3 to 5 people who are different from each other as possible, because we've used this diversity algorithm. Now these people who normally wouldn't work together become a team, and they have to work together to complete an e-learning course over time. And so they'll watch one module of e-learning on their own, very engaging cinematic e-learning, and they do it on their own asynchronously, so it fits into whatever's going on in their life. But then next they meet for a live synchronous session with a small group where the platform helps them self-facilitate a conversation around what they just learned.
That's very cool.
Brilliant. And can I just ask how you've managed to increase, how much you've managed to increase that 15% completion rate to, like with this platform?
It's very astounding, to be honest with you. It still blows our mind every day, but like our course completion rates are over 90%, 95% on average the last several years. So it's, people leave companies for many reasons. So they just might not be there anymore. So they can't complete the course, but we get most people through, which in and of itself is a huge transformation for the industry. But for us, that's table stakes. You have to at least get people to do the program you set out for them to do. Now, what we're super interested in is how do we get to behavior change?
Yes.
And that's what we're most interested in. How do we get people to, break down silos in the workplace and work better together across these global distributed teams?
But I love what you do with the team formation, because actually you're doing it. You're doing the flow of work. I might say that because teams are coming together and they have accountability, a shared accountability to get through the program together. So I love what you're doing, because that's building capabilities of teaming on top of the learning topics that you're offering. So I love that. Now, how do you think these will evolve? Because you have leadership programs, you have WAVE, that's resilience. We love, because it's ours here. But how do you see things evolving now with more capabilities, and how do you see ION evolving?
Yeah, I mean, at the very fundamental, we wanted to get people to course completion. And then it was like, okay, well, yes, we can get people to complete, but how can we get them to work better with each other? And so we do that through this accountability. So they literally cannot progress to the next module. So peer groups they're held back if one person in the group doesn't show up and do the work. And so the social reinforcement is so powerful to getting people to know this is what working on a team means. Mm-hmm. And if I don't do it, they don't get to do it. Guess what? I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my part, because I don't want to let my team down. And so it's this idea of accountability, support system, and if I'm ahead this month, I guarantee I'll be behind next month, because maybe my kid gets sick or whatever might happen. And so it's about like learning how to give grace, learning how to work around different schedules. Also this idea of using your voice in a small group and realizing how much more you have experientially that you've gone through in your life, whether or not you're a leader or not, that you yourself have something of value, of wisdom that you have experienced in your life up until this date that other people can benefit from. And people aren't asked to share their ideas unless they have a certain title or whatever it may be. So to create a space where you are a peer, even though you might be slightly different in level, and to get to show up and to get to share. And we don't, the way the platforms is what's so cool about it is we make it where you just have to show up and you can literally read a script if you want to. You don't have to go off. You don't have to go rogue. You don't have to take it anywhere you want. It will guide you every step of the way. So the fear of making a mistake or not saying the right thing. But what we find is that once people get going, they just go and they take it where they need to go in themselves. But then they have these guardrails. So our system really, it's a system. It's a methodology. It's a framework that you can sit in that creates boundaries to help people move and at large scale numbers. That's never been done before. So I think that just taking those pieces and then throwing in the fact that we put you in a group with diverse peers. So now from just a DEI perspective, a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective, your brain doesn't really want to work with people who are different from you. You want to work with people who you know what it's like to work with them. You know the best things to get out of them. And now you're put into a group of people who you don't know anything about and you got to work with them. So your brain fights you on that. It's part of our evolution, right? So we are forcing you to, but in a small group, which science has shown is the optimal environment for people to feel safe enough to open up and share. So we put you in the right space and environment, but then you have to show up and then your brain learns, okay, this person is actually different than my bias that I had against someone in engineering or sales or, this particular background or ethnicity. They're completely different than I've ever thought media has ever presented this before. So now your brain is going down this new path in this safe environment, and it's just allowing behavior change to happen at a faster pace and to create new neural pathways and to break these old ideas. And so people are feeling more comfortable to reach out to people who they don't normally work with. They have a support system that they can call. And then so every time you learn a new course, you also get to meet a whole new set of peers from different parts of the organization. And then you get to know how the organization works. You start learning how your job impacts other people's jobs. So again, all of these fundamental challenges that we are experiencing at work, the core is this working with people who are different and having trust. And those are the building blocks for inclusion. Those are the building blocks for change and all of those things. So we wanted to get at the core of that.
What I love, what you just shared then is it's just that whole ability to learn curiosity, learn to unlearn, right? And learn to be curious, learn to be compassionate and care as well, which I feel are some of the fundamental skills that we're struggling with right now. So yes, you're going to be learning whatever the program is, but ultimately you're also learning that curiosity. And I love where we are now. As we mentioned sort of at the last episode, I think it's 25% of the workforce is going to be under 25 next year. And so whatever level we are at, we have to be prepared to learn from the younger generation, right? And so kind of that's where this diversity of thought is really powerful, because we have to not be those kind of leaders that we know it all, right? And this is it. No, we have to be prepared to be mentored by, so that reverse mentoring, be learning from each other, which is what this mentorship piece of your programs I feel is really powerful. So even if it's the skills, but you're learning how to be curious and learn from others, learn from anyone.
And can we add that ION platform is beautiful? I mean, the care that you took on the aesthetics, the experience, you use all your senses when you enter there. So I think that's really valuable, because I'm getting a little tired of all the modules, everything linked, everything is just a link. ION changes the narrative. The narrative is not only verbal, but there's a non-verbal narrative that's beautiful. So Siobhan, I think you have a winning platform.
You really do. It's beautiful. It's different. So check it out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, this was
You're
so
welcome
fun.
anytime.
Thank you, Siobhan.
Thank you. It is really impressive. What they are doing is really impressive.
You're on mute, Gabby.
Oh, apologies. I am back. I want to make sure that we give our audience a little bit of time for Q&A. some questions before we have to wrap. And since no one else said it, I just want to plug the fact that we love Ion Learning so much that we have partnered with them through Ignition Coaching, which is Kully's organization, and Wagner as a co-lead for a program on well-being, on adaptability, and becoming more adaptable in this new world. So please check it out. I added the link in the chat. We have gotten some questions from folks, so I want to pull up the Slido. And this has been such a fascinating conversation. One of the things that came up immediately when we were talking about hiring with using and recruiting AI tools, we were talking about the first app that you mentioned, Wagner, that was an AI-driven recruiting tool. And someone said, how do we ensure that we're actually finding the right talent versus the most tech-advanced people using AI to optimize their application?
Yes. I love that question. And to be honest, it's like we are talking before this episode about not going back to basics, but going back to a simple way of thinking that's much more comprehensive and more humanistic. Because the reality is, we know that one of the biggest problems we have today is job descriptions. Start there. Your job description needs to include the capabilities of behavioral intentions, the understanding of people who are hungry for curiosity and courage to take a leap of faith with teams. You have to start describing the job as you would like the person to apply their best capabilities to be successful. Because let's be real, skills, people can get the technical skills. Actually, there's a lot of people helping each other out there. But I think start with the job description, really describing the expectations in terms of behaviors and capabilities that you expect, because people will self-select. What do you think, Ali?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel it's like that cultural fit that you get when you're having an interview, right? An input, whether even if it's a video interview, you'll get a feel, right? Whether this person's going to fit into my team. And where technology is now replacing a lot of that and sort of doing those searches and sort of finding, yes, the right technical skills, that's missing. So I do feel like there's got to be it's got to complement, right?
And but now you trigger another thought. Training our machines. We are training our AI algorithms. So train them to look at the past experiences. Train them to look into the individual, where they have been, that may trigger a better understanding of who they are. So we can teach the algorithms not to only look at skills as we know it, because let's be real, we're talking about this, the whole idea of taxonomy or ontology or the whole job architecture. We can do everything at once, but for each job they are critical for your organization. Think about the skills differently. What are the capabilities? What are the skills that together come together, and the complementary skills that you already have? So of course you're not gonna train the all AI for everything, but train AI to go beyond the skills taxonomy, because the skills taxonomy, people got the idea already and they know how to do their resumes to fit exactly what you're asking for. That's easy. Don't do that.
Yeah, wonderful answer. Thank you so much. I think one of the things that Manola said at one point was that she says, I often tell people I share conversational spaces with that we should be present over perfect. Really beautifully said. And a question that we received related to that is, how can we realistically develop these human capabilities with dispersed teams so that people are present, not perfect, and can actually dig in together? What do we do for that?
Kully, you want to start this one?
Yeah, no, and this is a challenge. However, I feel it's coming back to understanding our purpose, right? Kind of why are we here? And consciously making time for that human connection. So whatever it is, and I've seen it I'm working with a team actually in the Middle East, and they get together regularly for offsites, whether it's once a year, twice a year. And I feel like having that in-person connection for dispersed teams is really important, because I do feel that energy that's created, that purpose, that aligned purpose, getting to know people. And even if that is, and I know it's difficult, like trying to get people all in one place. However, the value that's created from those is enormous and cannot be replaced in many ways. However, there are other ways of doing that virtually as well. But it just takes time and awareness of helping us to recognize that this is just as important as an objective on a meeting agenda, right? Recognizing that this will actually add more value if we can just get to know people and create that connection that will help us with everything else that's going on.
You know what comes to mind? I'm just writing here, connection over content.
Yes.
Because I think what we need to start thinking is that our workforce, they're all leaders. I truly believe in this. Yeah. Everyone is a leader in this moment of transition, transformation in the workplace, because the best ideas might come from anybody in the workplace. Mm-hmm. However, we have this tendency to start conversations through our anxiety-driven selves. We get anxious, we go right into the topic, and managers, especially managers, leaders, and their people, you go right into that because you need to feel the silence. So a good step for all of us is to start with curiosity and silence, allowing for the moment to arrive, allowing for the people to just share what's going on with them, like you said, because intimacy is not a matter of technology or no technology. You can be very intimate in a Zoom call with one person in front of you. It's just the two of you, no interruptions. You can be intimate. You can get to know each other much more deeply than stopping by a coffee machine or a water cooler where there's a ton of people around. You can't have deep conversations in the water cooler. And I know what's happening in the workplace, in the hybrid workplace. People are just checking in, checking out. I have a friend who works for one of the big consulting firms. She goes in for a few hours, say hi to everyone, make sure that people see her, and she's gone. You know, it's like, there is a name for that, right? There's a name.
Coffee badging.
Coffee badging, exactly. People are coffee badging. So it's not about that. It's not creating the conditions artificially. It's creating the conditions inside out and helping our people to understand that the value they create might not be about expressing their wisdom or their knowledge. It's about how they bring people out of themselves and create collective value. I totally believe in that.
Yeah, and I feel like when people feel like their team leadership genuinely care, people will show up as their whole selves, and kind of people will give more as well. So I feel that time that can be taken, even if it's a few minutes at the beginning, just to check in, right? How are people showing up, can really go far. And actually meetings can be reduced because we're no longer just focused on the anxious thoughts of what's going on. And let's just be open, be honest. I haven't completed this for whatever reason, or this is where I'm at. And that can really, really be helpful. So it is sort of showing up as a whole selves, but genuinely caring.
And it helps with teaming too, right? I saw what Minola put in here in the chat too. Sometimes teams start working together without the moment to look at each other and say, hey, what brings you here? What's your superpower? What's your kryptonite? I start my courses like this. What's your superpower and what's your kryptonite? Well, Gen X get it, but Gen Zs, I don't know if they watch Superman. But it's really important to create that kind of interactions, right? So for teaming, this is so important. And AI, I was reading this research last thing. They said if you cannot use AI so profoundly, use AI to gain insights. For example, in a meeting, AI transcripts will give you an idea who spoke the most, who spoke the least, who gave the ideas, who didn't. So as a manager, you should be paying attention. Who are the hidden figures there? They're not talking, and why they're not talking. So for meeting dynamics, AI can work really well too.
And summarize everything and kind of give you the snippets and action points as well. So no, beautiful. Happy I know we're out of time.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. We could keep talking all day, but thank you to everyone who's joined us today for our conversation. We're so happy that you got to be a part of it. We'd love to see you at the next one on October 1st to discuss reinventing careers and lifelong learning. same place, same time, the first Tuesday of every month. For more information, please visit our CoachCast website at coachcast.org. And I'll place the link below as well. Please feel free to follow Kully and Wagner on LinkedIn here so that you can stay attuned to any more information about our next segment. We would love to talk to you and hear more about what you do, what your interests were related to the conversation today. Feel free to DM our team. We are so happy to create community around these concepts. Just so everyone knows, we do record all of our segments and we put them up on our YouTube channel. And I'll add that link below as well so that you can subscribe and get to rewatch any episodes that you really felt like you could garner a little bit more information around. So thank you again for joining us. We look forward to seeing you all at the next one.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thanks, Gabby.
Mhm.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.